Oh, hey! Welcome to another installment of Sunday Night Klooby Snacks. I'm Abby. This is my dad, and this is our book. I had
and
no
it's
thought.
Sunday
Just write
night,
the
and we're
first sentence
feeling all
down. That was
right.
it.
And yeah. So wait, we got to put your banner up, right? So like you
Yeah.
are
Wait,
Save and you
gotta
are
introduce me.
Abby. There we go. Yeah,
Graduated senior.
yeah. We got to fix that. I can fix that right now. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I don't even have to put that anymore. Just rising freshman, Fordham University.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to this. This is the whole story right here. Congratulations! Yeah, you graduated.
Yep.
So we're doing Sunday Night Klooby Snacks, right? What do you got to say by way of introductions? Well, I see Charlie waiting in the background. We're going to get him jumped in after we introduce everything. But what else do you have to say before I jump in and do a little bit of my thing?
We're almost done with our second flavor. Our second of our four flavors, our baker's dozens. We're on the last snack that I respond to. So the 12th snack in this section, this category, which is weird. We're really like pushing through.
Yeah, it's time. I always say, like, joking around, I say time and the internet are undefeated, right? And just to put it into a little bit more context for anybody that's never seen an installment of Sunday Night Klooby Snacks, we've got 52 of these babies. So we're doing this all year long. This is actually the 5th made for social media book that I've done with 52 tips that allow me to come online once a week, read the tip, talk about the tip, etc. But this is the first time I'm using my motivational quotes as the subject matter. And wow, what an amazing project for Abby to join me with. So in the process of getting her help and her feedback and her perspective on which would make up the best 52 snacks, she took a liking to the project, and I made all the room in the world that I could for her to be involved. And next thing I knew, she was writing journal style responses to 12 out of 13 snacks for each of the 4 baker's dozens. And you can see I'm screen sharing now. And yeah, Abby, it's like it's 25. It's like silver week anniversary.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't even know if that's a word, but 25 is a milestone number. And it does remind us how quickly time flies. Another reminder to, count your blessings, smell the roses, say I love you to the people that you care about, on and on and on, right? But yeah, we're almost at the halfway point. That's on, right? And then this is the last snack in this section that we're going to get a response from you to, right? So I'm looking forward to that. And I thought what I would do today, just to kind of create the bookend nature, and I might do this again next week, is I thought I would go ahead and like take us back in time and read the intro. Like, now that we've been through 12 or 11, tonight will be 12 of this baker dozen, we've gotten the journey, right? So I want to see what that looks like for us. I'm going to go ahead and read word for word what we did in the intro, how we introduced this section so many weeks ago. And here's like the sneak peek, the brief, the teaser version of what all these snacks are all about. Tonight, we're talking about everything being multi-determined. We'll get there in a minute, but here we go. Like, I'm curious what you'll think of this, Abby. I used to write a series of blogs that I called Mind the Gap. The concept was to bring attention mind to the difference gap between words that many people use interchangeably. It is just a little bit of attention to the real difference between the words that can change the entire meaning and thus full trajectory of outcomes in all kinds of settings, especially in a daddy-daughter relationship. Examples include success versus admiration, success versus achievement, jealousy versus admiration, hearing versus listening, sacrifice versus compromise, coaching versus mentoring. The difference in meaning between these sets of words is often the difference between effective and less effective communication. One of the Mind the Gap blogs I wrote was about confidence versus arrogance. And it could just as easily have been ego versus arrogance. So many people use the word ego when what they really mean is arrogance. That person has such an ego, or their ego is getting in the way, are examples that we've all said or heard a million times. But when we mind the gap, we realize that the word ego simply means sense of self. So arrogance might be an inflated sense of self or an overcompensation to a low sense of self, but ego is not arrogance. Sensing ourselves, having a sense of who we are, can result in arrogance, but is not itself arrogance. We all have a sense of self. However accurate, honest, or otherwise, we all have a sense of self. Arrogance is in the eye of the beholder because all the subject is doing is what we all do, defend our sense of self. When people accuse others of being arrogant, they are in that moment defending their own sense of self while failing to validate the subject's sense of themselves. I cannot eliminate the word arrogant from our vocabularies, but I can cook up a baker's dozen of ego-flavored Klooby Snacks. Abby guarantees you will get your defense. Wait, Abby guarantees these will get your defenses down. Get down. Enjoy. Get down. All right. So before, okay, and now like let's quickly. So check this out. So with that in mind, we talked about surrender is not the same thing as defeat, and then we talked about ego defense is an emotional fight or flight response, and then we talked about our judgments are an aggressive form of ego defense. Then we moved on to you cannot laugh at others if you cannot laugh at yourself, and if you love laughing at others, it's probably because you don't love yourself. Next, we talked about how we are usually guilty of the accusations we project onto others, followed by asking questions does not reveal our intelligence nearly as much as failing to ask will, followed by, well, that was a good one, huh? Boy, we got in there. These are some of my favorite pictures, by the way, of us on campus that one day. Anyway, let me get into the rhythm because I want to get your feedback on this opening here. 20, the curse of knowledge is when we have become so familiar with what we know that we forget what it's like not to know, ... And then all kinds of hell could break loose, right? Anyway, moving on without the commentary. 21, people who lack self-confidence always feel intimidated by a true leader. We actually fell on our own sword that week and admitted that, oh my God, we don't even like how this one came out. I don't know if we agree with that. We'd certainly rewrite it a little bit, but whoa. All right, so one down. All right. Then a couple weeks back, the only person, this is one of my favorites, the only person worried if they're good enough for the next level is the one who knows they're going. That came up in a presentation that I gave last week to a bunch of CEOs. Can't love this picture anymore, right? And then this was last week. This got us to last week when we were talking about surgeons do not operate on themselves. No. So, oh, no, that's 2 weeks ago. Last week was 24. Here we go. There's no such thing as a know-it-all, but there are plenty of people afraid of learning. So let me stop sharing there and say, whoa, was that a lot? Was that drinking out of a fire hydrant? Or like, and by the way, if anybody wants to join the conversation live, Charlie's waiting. We're going to jump you in here in a little bit. As a matter of fact, let's bring you on board right now, Charlie. Can you hear us? Are you out there all the way from South Africa?
Yes, Coach Jeff, I can hear you.
Okay, great. All right. Hey, hold the phone. Stand by, Abigail. Do you have any reflection? Like, does it help? I know I went fast, but like from the intro to the review of all of the snacks, really honing in on this idea of sense of self, whether it's accurate, inflated, deflated, blah, blah. What do you got?
I think that the intro really like kind of encapsulates what we're talking about with all of the actual snacks and how like a lot of the snacks are like contributing to like defining ego as sense of self rather than ego as arrogance or whatnot. So I think that like by talking about that in the intro, it really leads into how we talk about how like ego defense is emotional fight or flight and stuff like that, where we're like defining what ego what ego is. And yeah, so I think that really ties all together. So now that like we've gone the past few weeks and like talked about not even just like reading my responses, but also just having conversations about ego and ego defense and what like the defining sense of self and what that looks like now going back and reading the intro, it all kind of like ties together.
Mm-hmm. Like, do you feel like you wrote this book, you know, or so much of this, we co-author, right? And you live with me in this house, right, etc. But what I'm getting at is like it's easy, you know, this stuff, right? Because you wrote the book, you read the book, you were in the process of writing the book. But after reading it week after week after week, and after discussions and so forth, can you say that you feel that you have learned more about ego? Have you learned more about yourself? Have you learned more about your dad? You know what I mean? In the process, then, you know, even from a state of quote knowing the book, do you feel like you've still learned and grown? Talk to me about that piece.
Well, yeah, because when we were writing it, it was like I would write my response and then I'd read it to you, and then that would kind of be like the end of that conversation. You would be like, oh, like that was good or whatever. We never would sit down and have these 30-minute conversations just about the snack or just about my response. So now it's like we're actually going back and revisiting and really talking about these things that like even though like I'd read them to you before and we looked at them together, we didn't have these like big conversations about it. Or sometimes we'd have conversations about the snacks where I'd be like, oh, like what does this mean? And you would explain it to me, but we didn't have these full like sit down like collaborative conversations talking about the certain, like each snack. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's for me, it's wonderful because I was going to do this by myself, with or without, right? And it's just so much better getting to interview you, getting to pull your perspective out. Even though so much of what you have to say is on display, I still get to pull a couple of layers, out, a couple more nuggets from you. And time has passed since the authoring, and it is special. And wow, we're like 62 days or something like that away from you moving to Fordham, like 62 days, something. Are you counting? Oh, if we leave on the 21st, it's actually 59.
Yeah, it
right.
should be.
So something like that. We leave in 58 or 59 days from New York to drop you off. How crazy is that?
No, it's 60.
How excited are you? Just tell me. How excited are you to get to Fordham?
Excited. I'm so excited. We leave it. Hold on, I have an ad. 1 month, 29 days, 3 hours, 49 minutes, and 1 second.
But quote unquote, as they say, who's counting? Why count when you can have an app do it for you? All right, well, let's get into it. Are you ready? Let's go ahead and get into tonight's snack.
I'm ready. All
right, I'm going to bring Charlie. Charlie, you're in, right? Oh, we've got Charlie in the show. All right, so all right, fantastic. So let me go ahead and pull up the banner, and here we go. We'll give context afterwards, but there's the banner. Let me go back to screen sharing. And tonight's Klooby Snack is simply that everything is multi-determined. Everything.
Yep.
Abby, what do you got?
Okay. Standing alone, this Klooby Snack makes complete sense. There are multiple factors that contribute to the outcome of anything. However, this Klooby Snack is in the ego-flavored category, which makes it a bit more complex. As I've heard way too many times, the world doesn't revolve around me. As much as I hate to admit it, not everything is about me. In regards to ego, that's what this Klooby Snack is about. Every time I don't get my way, I genuinely question if the world is out to get me. Newsflash, it isn't. Everything is multi-determined, meaning our well-being is not the sole thing being harmed or protected in the making of any decision. Of course, everyone does matter, but in retrospect, not as much as we'd think. This Klooby Snack acts as a reality check, reminding us that there's more going on in people's lives, the world, and our environment than solely us.
Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. Let me see here. I'm still sharing. I'm going to stop sharing. So, I'm going to start with the question I always ask. There's some good stuff in there that I could point to, but I want to pull it out of you. First question always is, do you feel any differently or the same or more strongly about what you'd said before? Are there new perspectives? Would you respond the same way if you were responding to that Klooby Snack today?
Yeah, I think I still agree with this one and what I said. I think that I'm still definitely coming to terms with the concept of it. But conceptually, I do agree. And there's a lot of times where with anything that happens, anything that doesn't go my way, it's like, it really does feel like everybody in the world was contributing to making sure I didn't get what I want and whatever. But it's like, I have to remind myself and use it as like a reality check that like, I'm not the most important thing in the situation, or there's other things going on. It wasn't like this was like an attack at me. Like not everything's always an attack at me, or
No, you're there. You're on the fringe of it. We can go one step deeper, but yeah, give me more. Tell me, give more humility, please.
No, but I say if you go back to the thing and you screen share, there's one sentence in there that I really, really like.
Okay, I will. Give me a second.
Something about our well-being is not the only thing being harmed or protected in the making of.
Yeah, I thought that was succinct and well said. Let's bring it up. Here we go.
Yeah, I'm a writer.
Right here. Everything is multi-determined, meaning our well-being is not the sole thing being harmed or protected in the making of any decision. Yeah, so that's the piece that can be elaborated on. I'm going to give you a shot before I give you. I wrote a little something when I was putting the promotion for the tonight's live stream together. I always do a little brief write-up that ends up with, we'll explain further when you join us tonight. Mm-hmm. And I liked what I wrote there, but I want to give you space to take it one step further. I think you got one more expression in you about this piece. Like, wow, look what you're doing right now, Abigail. You're 17 years old and you are admitting it. Not everything is about you. For a 17-year-old girl to write that sentence in the book and talk about it on the live stream, that's pretty cool. Right. And I think it's, just as cool, by the way, that you still fight it. You know what I mean? That you still you're honest about damn it, I know it's true, but is there a way that it doesn't have to necessarily always be true? I just think that's cute about you because you know who you are. And I wish that more people in the world were shamelessly autobiographical or shamelessly dedicated to their own self-interest, their own best interest. Like the world's going to be a better place the more actualized you are. There's a lot of people in the world, and a lot of times I've been accused of this. Like I remember one time, oh, Jeff, you're playing small, or why aren't you bigger by now, or and so forth, right? There's a lot of people that are afraid of their own success, afraid of the work it takes, or the attention they'll get, or the responsibility that comes. There's a lot of people that are afraid of totally actualizing, but you are not, right? So I wouldn't trade it for the world, but look at how much more mature and how much more well-balanced you're going to be heading into this pursuit of yours, knowing that. And so let's talk about that. That's going to be my next question. You want me to keep this up, right? So, well, okay, so check this out. If you keep it, newsflash, if you keep this beautiful expression top of mind, and I know the answer to this, but what does that mean then? What does that do when situations come up when you don't get your way? What does that mean in terms of your response or your behavior or your, and I've seen you kind of go, ever since the writing of this, I've seen things come along, not go your way, where you've responded in ways that you regret, but you still owned. And I've also seen things not go your way where you're like, hey, you just went straight to owning it with no regret or fighting and so forth. Mm-hmm. There's a continuum there. Can I get you to talk about that? What does this mean when we recognize?
Yeah, I think that a lot of times in like the scenario of things not going your way or things not going in your favor, I think that a lot of the times it's easy to kind of be viewing everything from like a very zoomed in lens where you're really only thinking about how this decision or how this outcome affected you only, and how it was made only to affect you. But I think it's difficult at times to kind of zoom out and view it from a unbiased, just a wider lens, just zoom out the lens and view things to really how they are rather than how they're affecting you. And it is hard to take yourself out of a situation and not think about, like, as you are currently being affected by something, it's hard to think about it in ways that that don't pertain to you. But I think that when you're able to zoom out that lens and then realize that everything is multi-determined, you're able to take things less personally, maybe just be less affected and control your responses to whatever the situation is, and control, because sometimes there's times where it's like, I feel so personally attacked by something not going my way and then I react, and then I sit back and I think about it, and it wasn't an attack to me. Everything is multi-determined. There's multiple factors that go into everything and anything. So it's easier to control your responses, and if you're able to zoom out the lens before you respond and react.
Yeah, this is wonderful. Like, you're leading me to what I want to share. Let me jump Charlie in before I get to my piece. Charlie, if you're still with us, what do you got so far? What's happening for you?
I'm here, Coach Jeff, just nice and cold and having just woken up.
Okay, hey, if you're not ready to ask a question yet or share a perspective, that's fair. I just want to make sure that you know that we love you being here. You're chiming in all the way from South Africa. You wake up early in the morning, and I want to make sure that we include you in the conversation. It means a lot to us that you're here. Puts a smile on our face every time we hear your voice.
I got some good news. My Klooby Snack books have arrived.
Oh, yeah! Hey! All right. Woohoo!
Antoine called me yesterday, and he said he's just landed. So I'll go probably see him sometime during this week.
Fantastic. For those of everybody that doesn't know, Charlie put me in touch with a friend for the United States that goes back and forth to South Africa a bunch. So I sent the books to Antoine, I believe it is. And Antoine's now arrived in South Africa. So Charlie's going to get his hot little hands on the physical books rather than having to rely on us screen sharing every week.
I'm going to be gobbling my snacks live.
Hey, listen, just don't eat the book. Okay. So here we go.
I might just do that.
No. All right. I'm going to put something up real quick. I'm going to put this banner up. So stay with me now. It's time for me to share a little bit. Are you ready? I'm going to add on to what you've been doing, Abby. Right. Mm-hmm. So this banner is here. Check this out. Partial, partially, and partially. There's a progression. So you were talking about, like, hey, when I look at this narrow view, but when I pan out and look at you were saying it in a bunch of different ways, but basically the way that I frame this, a lot of the times, I'll use the word autobiographically, right? Hey, when I look at this thing autobiographically, that means I'm going to tell the story through my lens, my perspective. And what we've been saying every week is ego defense. It's our sense of self, right? So ego defense is automatic. We're always going to defend ourselves. We're always operating in defense. It's always the first responder. It's, ego defense shows up to every party first, right? And we hope logic arrives fashionably late, stays a little longer, and helps clean up, right? Yeah. And so what I want, it would have been foolish to say, well, now knowing this, I'll always react appropriately. No, but it will lengthen your fuse. It will give you more time. It does give you more tools to prevent an unwanted reaction if you can remember to zoom out and ask healthy questions. So that's why I'm using this banner to give a couple of notes in the coaching I want to give out there in the live stream, right? So the idea is hopefully we get enough time to ask this question. Why else could this be happening? Yeah. We know the autobiographical response because we are partial, right? Yeah. And I can't wait to read this bit, Abigail, to you. Anyway, with all of us, to the world that we're sharing. Anyway, and then we're getting to why did this, right? And I'll finish that. I'll edit that when we come back. But listen, check this out. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. I'm going to read this word for word, and I don't know because it's too long to share. But this is the piece that I wanted to. It's right here. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
So, even if you are correct that the reason you believe something happened, that reason that satisfies, justifies, validates your ego, your needs, your perspectives, your frames of reference, your levels of experience, etc. Even if you are correct that the reason you have arrived at is, quote, the reason that something happened or someone has behaved in a certain way, you are still only partially correct, because impartially speaking, everything is multi-determined. Mm-hmm. I'm going to shave that and share it with you at some point. So look, so even if you are correct that the reason that you're giving, right? Even if you're correct, you're only partially correct because you're partial. But impartially speaking, which is what you're talking about, that zoom out to ask better questions, consider other perspectives, other possibilities, right? Impartially speaking, everything is multi-determined. There's always probably a gazillion reasons for every single thing that happens, right? And wow, can that lengthen our fuse and get us out of our pity party and our defense mechanisms and our unwanted, equal and opposite reactions to what we believe has happened to us. Yeah. And then hopefully now what I'm about to do when I edit this Klooby Snack, I'm going to put this thing that everybody's heard before. Like, I didn't make this last part up, but why did this happen for me? Right? Why did this happen for me? Is the healthy version of responding to something, right? Because everything's a gift, right? It doesn't kill you, makes you stronger. We're always responsible, able to respond, able to respond, right? So, we're talking about fortifying our sense of self and getting comfortable with who we are so that we don't have an over-aggressive ego defensive reaction to something that's multi-determined anyway. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you think of all of that jam, that whole lead up, the partial, partially, impartially? Yeah. Why else could this be happening? And why did this happen for me rather than to
I think that was just a very more sophisticated wording for what I was trying to say. Just the whole, but I was on the right track.
You were more than in the ball game. I think you were on the field. I think you were about to score, as a matter of fact.
I made it on the field. No, but just the whole zooming out and like the autobiographical thing, taking yourself out of it and seeing it for what it is rather than for what it means to you, makes a big difference. And
and when you combine,
a lot more sophisticated.
Well, have you heard? I forget if it was one of our snacks, but we judge ourselves by intent, but other people judge our actions, right?
No, the snack that we put in the book is we judge ourselves for intent, but we judge others for their actions.
That's right. So I think this is one of these pieces that can help us. This snack tonight, realizing that everything is multi-determined. So yeah, but we can't. The other piece of this too is be kind to yourselves out there. Like, everybody, be kind to yourself. We all make mistakes. We're all human beings. We all have emotions. Ego defense will always show up first. We just hope that this personal and professional growth lengthens our fuse, puts us in a position to ask better questions, make better choices, be more compassionate, be more curious, laugh at ourselves if we have to, etc. Charlie, anything come to mind that you want to ask or share?
Hey, Coach Jeff. Yeah, I always says that these Klooby snacks, they intertwine. They can mean something different at any given time. Hey, next week I'll be showing off my book.
Okay, promise is promise. But make sure you go to the side. Make sure you put your face to the side so we can see the beautiful smile.
Yes, sir. You said something in the beginning. Was that drinking like from a hydrant?
Was what?
You were saying when you did the sum up, you were saying, did that feel like drinking from a fire hydrant?
Oh yeah. When I read the intro and then I went through the review of the first 11 snacks before the 12th in this section, I thought that was a lot. It feels like a lot because it's not easy to confront our own egos. And even though I'm the author and even though I'm hosting the show and all of that, I still confront myself every week when I do this stuff. So it's pretty heavy. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is where they all just come into each other and build up into each other.
Yeah.
But then getting to today's one is to say that what is it? That everything is multifaceted, and I like the little write-up you put up again. Wordsmith par excellence. You've gone
the chef's kiss. Mwah.
Exactly. Reading that when I received the email, I was going, hey, Coach Jeff has actually outdone himself here now today.
Well, thank you, Charlie. I appreciate that. I mean, we're just in it. We're just like right smack dab in the middle of this like goodness pool that I'm swimming in since Abby agreed to work on this project with me. It's brought lots of smiles, lots of laughter, lots of tears of celebration and release and forgiveness and apology and connection and it's just wonderful. It's like I'm not starting to get sad yet, but like we're a couple of weeks away from getting over the hump where we're over halfway. We're almost there. Well, I mean, and it's not just like getting through the book, but it's like, like we talked about earlier, like you could tell I've got a very special daughter that brings a lot of joy and vitality and excitement and variety and genius throughout the home. And my wife and I, we're figuring, I don't know, we're just doing our best to get ready for it's going to be a big emptiness in our lives. So we're doing our best to fill it up, with memory and no regret type stuff and sharing with each other. Like twice in the past month, Abby and I have sat in the car sharing music and reading lyrics with each other. Like we're doing that type of stuff in addition to what we're doing every week. And it's we understand we're sprinting to the finish line of a very a certain phase in your life, kiddo. And we're so excited for you, so happy for you. But we're gonna miss you big time. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So here we are tonight. Last call. I think that we've discussed this nicely. Unless there's a last call, comments, questions, expressions of gratitude.
Coach Jeff, you at the end says you ask, why did this happen for me? Again, once we start putting it out there and zooming out, why is this happening? How much work did I put in? How much effort did I put in? Why did it fail? Why did you having a look at what happened that led up to that time? So, there are so many, as we says, there are so many layers that comes into play that if something goes wrong, instead of blaming everyone else out there, is have a look within. And one of the Klooby Snacks, if I can remember correctly, everything is an inside job. So we
Every
need to
job,
have
yeah. Every job is an inside job for sure.
we have to have a look at, why is this happening for me now? How is the universe and everything else around us, my actions, my thoughts, everything that I've done, how has that led up to this?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, right? Because I think that, when you ask those questions, right? I think, like the value, I'll put it up. One of the values of this thing right here, why did this happen for me, right? It's basically like, instead of being glasses half empty or glasses half full, that's like surface value of that motivational quote. That's out there, right? This didn't happen to you. This is happening for you. It's the way that you see it. It's perspective and so forth. Sure. Yeah, got it. Let's pin that on the board. For me, what's interesting about it in our context tonight is that we start by identifying the autobiographical. We validate it, but only insofar as to call it one of many possible reasons for anything. So we encourage getting away from autobiographicals, zooming out, as Abby would say, to the panoply of reasons that everything could exist. But isn't it fun how now we are okay going back to autobiographical? But now, instead of being a victim when we were only autobiographical, once we do the work of panning out, lengthening our fuse, being curious, having compassion, right, letting logic show up, now we get to go back to autobiographical and ask a better question. Why did this happen for me? What's the opportunity here? Who can I empathize with? Who can I help? What sign is this? What is the universe trying to teach me? We start to ask all these better questions, right? What did they intend? I know how this felt, but were they intending to hurt me, or were they just doing the best they possibly can? What would I do if I were in their situation? Damn it. Oh man. All right, cool. Okay. Right. And all of those, right. And so for me, it's fun. I like what you're saying, Charlie, where look within, hold yourself accountable. I like that piece. That's everything that Klooby Snacks is all about. Everything that the integrity game is all about. We want to make it easy and fun to look within. We want to make accountability less threatening. Right. So yes. And then it's a little bit of fun how we don't just be selfish. Don't just defend your ego. Well, no, do that. Just do it in balance with all the other things that we want you to do, which is be curious and compassionate and loving and vulnerable and on and on and on. So I think that piece is funny, is that we get back to like, why did this happen for me? It's not a biographical question, but now from the mature perspective of considering all perspectives, now I see that there's some opportunity for me here somewhere. It's okay. I've earned the right to be autobiographical. I'm going to be more of a responsible person from an emotional intelligence perspective. When I'm autobiographical, if I've done the work to consider all the other perspectives, and that's what we're helping people do here. I hope anyway. I hope it's coming out that way. So what do you got, Abby, in last call?
I got nothing.
Nothing. Well, you can make something up. You can improv it.
I got nothing.
Okay. All right. We're going to write a song called I Got Nothing. All right. Well, having said that,
Abby's roll of eyes just finished.
well, that's it. That's it. Listen, next week, if you guys want to join, if anybody out there wants to join into Klooby Snacks and join the conversation live next week, it'll be the same URL, just with the 26 in front. It'll be the last session of Ego Flavored. It will represent the exact halfway point in the book. It's a little tug on my heart, which means we're closer to saying goodbye to Abby in New York City and all of that. But tune in and join the conversation. We'd love to hear from you, Charlie. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Abby, so excited for you as always. Yep. Thank you for the work that you did writing, last year, at the end of last year, to get the book done. And then, it's a little bit of work, but it's fun work, showing up every week, being consistent, being available, right? To go rolling with the improv and all of that. I don't have anything else unless anybody else does.
I got nothing.
I'm happy to say
thank you very much, Coach Jeff. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
And wishing you all a beautiful week ahead. I'm going to crawl back into bed now. It's too cold.
All right. Good night, Charlie. We'll see everybody next week. Thank you, Abby. I love you. Good night, everyone.
Bye.